So I've tested pretty much all of the latest smartphones of 2024, and it's time to let you know which ones are the best. There've been some weird, some wacky, some truly brilliant, and some pretty stinky ones as well over the past year, and I've broken the video down into key categories including, to name some, camera, battery, budget, foldables, gaming, pound for pound, and the best overall. And timestamps for those have been included in the video description below, but I recommend watching the whole video because some of those actually appear in more than one category. So it'll just give you more education about which might be right for you. And I also have some bonus information on some yet to be released upcoming smartphones that you might want to look out for. First up, best mid-range phone, because this is a very interesting category, almost flagship, minus a few bells and whistles for a cheaper price. And for this, I have 3 great options, 2 of which that can be found for around £600 and 1 that's even cheaper. And it very much depends on your priorities. Do you want great software, very solid camera, whilst not being the most lavish or most exciting? Or do you want pure beast mode performance, speed, power, and intrigue, possibly at the expense of the features on the first one? Or do you want a mix of both for less? Enter the Google Pixel 8, the iQOO 12, and the Xiaomi 13T. The Pixel 8 gives you stock Android and a very simple yet effective camera. Great for portraits, social media ready images and video, it's up there. But the iQOO 12, with its flagship Snapdragon 8 Gen 3, is a monster for the price. It also looks super slick with its partnership with BMW aiding that racy design. And then you have the Xiaomi 13T at around £150 to £200 less, and it's real flagship killer territory. MediaTek Dimensity 8200 Ultra chip, which is built on the 4nm process and gives you really solid performance for everyday use and gaming. On top of that, you have a flagship 5000 mAh battery and a triple camera that also includes a telephoto lens with 2x optical zoom. Most phones that drop the price drop that optical zoom. Tons more features across the board. 3 great phones. The Pixel 8 is the smallest at 6.2 inches, which by today's standards technically puts it in the small phone category. But is it the best small phone? Well, there are a few different options in different form factors. Ever since Apple discontinued the mini model after the iPhone 13 series, it seems that members of the small handy brigade have really only been left with 3 lines of inquiry. The first is to go for the Zenfone series from Asus. In this case, the latest being the Zenfone 10. 5.9 inches, 144Hz display, and the only main issue here is it's over 6 months old and therefore has the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 chip inside and not the 3 that will more than likely be included in their expected Zenfone 11 series phones that are due to launch around July. The second option you have, like with the Pixel 8, is to go with a standard model of a flagship series, i.e. don't go with the Max or Plus models, they tend to be too large. The standard models tend to be a lot smaller, but still contain a lot of flagship qualities, of which for all-round competitiveness I would probably opt for either the 6.2-inch Samsung Galaxy S24 or the 6.1-inch iPhone 15 Pro. Great cameras, solid battery, top-tier software, brilliant build quality, nice designs, great performance, and most of the top-tier bells and whistles you would expect. Or the third option is to go with a flip phone. Standard size phone when unfolded, but it can flip down to half the size. The Samsung Z Flip 5 is probably the most well-known and most complete, but the Oppo Find N3 Flip is also a very stellar option you may want to consider. Motorola with their Razr devices are still providing decent options too, and for a more budget-friendly option, the brand Techno with their Phantom V Flip might be the way to go. But what about other kinds of foldables, the phone-tablet combination? Well, Techno feature again here with their Phantom V Fold, but I also think this category is stronger than the Flip market. So I wouldn't say unless budget is your main and only priority, then I can recommend it. Outside of that, I would probably look elsewhere. If you want a more complete tablet to phone foldable experience, Samsung again lead the way. A package of great build quality, decent camera, intuitive folding device software, the Z Fold 5 is probably the best. But on one key area, Samsung have and are continuing to miss the mark. Myself and many others have been a little frustrated by their fairly stubborn decision to stick with the candy bar long and narrow design on that outer display. When I went to Seoul in South Korea to visit Samsung HQ last year, I got hands-on with some concept folding devices that they'd made in their design factory, and some had the wider front display and also an integrated S Pen. I think both would be absolutely ideal going into a Z Fold 6, for example, and I do feel that is the way to go. Phone first, tablet second. If the long thin design was the way to go, then all smartphones would have that design. But they don't, they're wider. And OnePlus, Honor and Huawei have solutions to this. Both the latter two, the Honor Magic V2 and the Huawei Mate X3, are both incredibly similar by design, amazingly thin, incredibly light, with a front display of 6.4 inches. The only major differences here are chipset. The Honor Magic V2 has the newer Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 to the 8 Plus Gen 1 on the Huawei Foldable, and software. Now there's no getting around the fact that as good as Huawei's Harmony OS software is, and how usable certain workarounds are, the lack of total Google support will always make the phones a hard sell or a hard recommend if you don't want the faff. And with the designs being so similar, on top of the fact that the Honor Magic V2 has Android 13 with Magic OS 7.2, I think, over the top, full access to the Google Play Store, it makes it the clear winner of the two. But it's not the only final option here, because like with the Google Pixel Fold, the OnePlus Open has made that front display much wider, but it has a better internal display than the Pixel Fold. And it might just be the overall winner here. The Magic V2 is slimmer, sleeker, and less bulky looking, but the OnePlus Open is ever so slightly shorter and ever so slightly wider on that front display. And for most, it may make a substantial difference. On top of that, you have a sharper, cleaner, more premium looking frame, the famous alert slider, and personal preference here, slightly better Oxygen OS software. Both are slick to navigate, both have solid cameras if not elite, and both have solid batteries and fast charging options. Two great foldable options, but for looks alone and that slightly wider front display, I think the OnePlus Open might just tip the scales. Although the Porsche version of the V2 looks sensational. But what about the best phone displays on the whole? Well, OnePlus do feature again here, alongside, as you probably would expect, Samsung. The latter almost win this by default every year, but it might not be as clear-cut this time. Many have claimed the S24 Ultra's display in certain situations is actually not as good as the S23 Ultra display, and while I don't agree with that sentiment, I can kind of see where some people are coming from. A lot of the feedback has been that the latest Samsung flagship's Gorilla Glass armor on the display for improved anti-glare qualities have actually led to a duller, less vibrant output. And many have said the differences between natural and vivid in the settings are less noticeable, almost non-existent. Again, I don't really agree with that sentiment. I can see the difference when toggling between, but I will admit it might be slightly more subtle. Either way, it's still an incredible display panel. It's Quad HD+, 120Hz, AMOLED, HDR10+, and brighter at 2600 nits peak. But the OnePlus 12's panel can apparently go up to 4500 nits. Now, there is a disclaimer here. That is not in normal use. You won't get that across the board on a full display. Apparently, this can be measured from taking just tiny parts of the display, certain HDR content, turning the rest of the pixels off whilst testing it. Technically true, but also for real world use, technically not. So you're probably going to get very, very similar in terms of brightness with the S24 Ultra. In certain situations, it does look a tiny bit brighter, but for all intents and purposes, is pretty much the same. The OnePlus 12 is also Quad HD+, 120Hz, and has a 2160Hz PWM dimming to reduce eye strain. But the S24 Ultra is flat, has smaller bezels and punch-hole camera cutout. Objectively, they are both seriously top. It could go either way. A similar sentiment to the best gaming phone. On one hand, you have the Red Magic 9 Pro, and on the other hand, you have the Asus ROG 8 Pro. Both are powered by the 8 Gen 3, both have large bright AMOLED displays, and both are on Android 14. Stereo speakers they have in common, headphone jack likewise, but then the subjective elements come into play. What's more important? If battery is your thing, the Red Magic's 6500 mAh is absolute killer and beats the still very good 5500 mAh cell in the ROG handset. If camera is your tipple, the ROG with its telephoto lens and optical zoom might just take the biscuit. Both have almost identical benchmark results, but in certain tests that I've seen, the Red Magic 9 Pro with its built-in cooling system does seem to handle thermals slightly better, so for long-term gaming sessions it's possible this will come into effect. Both have special gaming modes to optimize the device for performance, notifications, etc., and both have unique LED lighting on the back. I think the ROG 8 Pro does this best, and overall I think looks a little more mature, a little bit more elegant, which I prefer. But you might prefer the more racy, glossy slab from the Red Magic 9 Pro. Plus, it's slightly cheaper too, so that might play a fact. But what if you want proper budget? And I'm not talking about a £40 phone that you're being flogged on TikTok Shop that doesn't do anything that they tell you it's going to do. Don't get me started. I'm talking about a phone that does pretty much most of the things you want it to do, but still at a very, very affordable price. Well, I have great options at differing price ranges. The first being around 300, 350, in which you have the Poco X6 Pro and the Honor Magic 6 Lite, which I did actually drop and smash, unfortunately. The Poco phone is powered by the MediaTek Dimensity 8300 Ultra, Snapdragon 6 Gen 1 on the Magic 6 Lite. Both phones will therefore handle most day-to-day tasks with ease, but the Poco X6 Pro is very, very close to peak flagship level, with serious gaming also hugely possible too. On top of that, both have the 120Hz displays, so both feel really nice and slappy. Slappy? Both feel really slappy. Ow. Broken glass on the face. Both are really nice and snappy, with only really the camera not being true flagship. Both use a macro instead of a telephoto zoom, which would have been nice, but both have an ultra-wide that can take some nice shots, and their high megapixel count main sensors, again, in good lighting, won't be too dissimilar to premium flagship phones. Then again, we go subjective. Do you want stereo speakers and an IP54 rating? Or mono and IP53? Or do you perhaps want a classier design and a bigger and hugely, as you'll see later, long-lasting battery? Honourable mention in this price bracket is the Infinix 030, which is another wild-looking thing. Slightly less powerful chip, but a 144Hz display and a 108 megapixel main camera. Certainly an option, but for £100 less, I know, crazy, right? You have the Techno Pova 5 Pro. Less complete camera, slightly less powerful chip again, and an LCD display over AMOLED. But it's still 120Hz, you still have a 5000 mAh battery, and stereo speakers, an SD card slot, and this funky LED back panel that wouldn't look out of place on one of those high-end flagship gaming phones. Now, for all of the phones so far, we have touched on their camera and battery performances, because that is a big area for a lot of you. But what is the best camera phone? Well, 3 honourable mentions first, starting with the Vivo X100 Pro. Oh, what a camera this is. 50 megapixel triple array, 1-inch type main sensor, excellent in low light, fast autofocus, and just some of the most impressive images I've seen on a smartphone. Super sharp, packed with details, and in-app customization is vast. On top of that, you have a competitive ultra-wide angle lens and a 4.3-inch optical zoom telephoto lens with decent stabilization and dynamic range. Video is very good, including the 8K, and their ongoing collaboration with Zeiss aided the glass on the outside, which helps with anti-glare, etc. It's really, really top notch. Couple of the downsides, while the customization in-app is good, I think it could be a little bit more simple. And it's also a shame that you only get 1080p video on that front camera. It definitely should be at least 4K. If you want that high resolution front camera, then you could go with the Huawei P60 Pro. And this also has an incredible rear rig. We have mentioned the Huawei situation, which is a shame, but if camera is of utmost importance, then its brilliance is well documented. As demonstrated in my full review, low light, especially when zooming, is truly epic, and it's a very complete setup. However, it was released nearly a year ago now, so the rest of the phone's internals, hardware-wise, are starting to look a little long in the tooth, even if it looks on the outer shell as beautiful as Huawei phones usually are. The fact that we have the Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1 in here makes it a hard recommend, especially when you've got the more later chipsets from the likes of the Google. From the likes of Google with the Pixel 8 Pro. And this is the brand new mint green colouring, which looks, I think, probably the best that they've... I wasn't a huge fan of this colouring. I know it got a lot of hype, thought it looked a little bit... Yeah. This one, woo! And I love mint choc chip ice cream as well. Shout out to any of you that do as well. But the Pixel 8 Pro is another very complete setup. Excellent HDR, super quick image processing and shutter speed for fast-paced moving subjects, kids, pets, portraits, etc. Just brilliant, and some £300 cheaper than the two final and probably most complete camera smartphone. The iPhone 15 Pro Max always tends to be right at the top of everyone's list when it comes to camera, and rightfully so to a certain extent, apart from two key things. It ticks almost every box really, now that Apple have upgraded that zoom capability with a 5x telephoto lens, and the video capabilities are best in class. But portraits can actually be quite blurry at times if there's any movement in the frame, and I still feel for years that Apple have and are continuing to miss the mark when it comes to their colour settings, especially in certain daylight, sunlight situations. It can be super red, super warm, and the HDR just tends to have a bit of a meltdown sometimes in certain lighting. And for that reason, the winner of the best smartphone camera goes to the OnePlus One. No, I'm joking. Good phone though. Rolling back the years with that one. The Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra. You're probably not surprised. There may be camera areas in other phones that just pip it, but for the all-round experience, I feel it's the most complete. Huge details from its 200 megapixel main sensor, brilliant zoom capabilities, wonderful in-app customization and features, while still remaining simple and easy to navigate. Amazing video and stabilization, really solid low light performance, likewise for audio, and more natural colors than last year's model. Plus on top of that, you get all of the new AI software features, the likes of AI photo editor and edit suggestions, and that really cool AI generated slow-mo. Great additional software on top of that already established hardware. But what about software as a whole? Well, you might opt for the S24 Ultra. One UI is very complete, and it's one of the most feature-rich for sure. Great lock screen customization, I like the quick settings layout, I like the fonts, I like the DeX integration. It's all very good, but it might not work for you. You could go for the defaults. Your stock Android or your stock iOS. Both are meant to be the ideals of the two platforms, but I think that only really works on the latest iPhones because they are on their own, whereas we have many different versions of Android that just tweak certain things that might actually be more ideal for you. I really do like the simplicity and ease of stock Android on the Pixel, but you may prefer the customization and possibly more features that certain brand skins provide. The OnePlus 12, for example, with its Oxygen OS, while still not quite what it used to be in my opinion after that Oppo shift, it is still one of, if not the most slickest and fluid Android experiences going. Like, if you're one of these people that say, oh, you've got an Android, your phone lags, test a OnePlus 12 and then come back to me. Because I guarantee you've not been testing the OnePlus 12 and the like when you've tested an Android phone. It just doesn't exist anymore on the top tier phones. But for sheer innovation in the software space, I'm going to have to go with the Nothing Phone 2. Considering the Phone 2 is powered by the 2022 launched Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1, to keep the price down, the way this phone in day-to-day navigation matches up to top-tier 2024 flagships is remarkable. It's crazy snappy. I'm sure a lot of that is down to the fact that Nothing OS is super minimal, everything you need, no real clutter, but it's still very unique. The monotone look will be personal preference, but you can't say it's not special. Very close to stock Android still though, with the end goal being you don't have to actually go into individual apps. You can just find things within the apps from your home screen kind of idea. And I can't wait to see where they take this next. But now for the battery beast. And this is a hard one because it very much depends on what you use your phone for, as the phones are optimized for different things. If you're web browsing or watching movies or gaming, you will get slightly different results for each. As an example, the OnePlus 12 and the ROG 8 Pro are brilliant for content consumption. If you're watching movies, if you're watching social media, YouTube, things like that, you will get incredible battery life out of those two phones. But the iPhone 15 Pro Max, for example, in certain situations, has actually outshone a lot of the top tier Android phones in certain battery drain tests. But the two special ones I'm choosing are, as I said earlier, number one, the Honor Magic 6 Lite. I mean, 2-day battery is just a joke at this point with this one, especially in a phone so thin, but with its gargantuan 6,500 mAh battery, the Red Magic 6 Pro is a true battery beast, and it can also charge itself in just over 30 minutes, which is absolutely crazy. Don't underestimate the importance of great battery. But what is the most underrated phone? Well, it's one I mentioned earlier. It's a Vivo X100 Pro. It has all the flagship trimmings of other title contenders, but doesn't get quite the same media attention that it possibly should. Beast performance with its 4nm MediaTek Dimensity 9300, which I might add goes toe-to-toe with the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3, a large 5400 mAh battery, 120Hz LTPO AMOLED display with a peak brightness of 3000 nits, it's IP68 rated, it has good stereo speakers, it's really solid premium build quality, it's right up there. Surprise package and brand to watch out for, I'm going Techno. I really like what they've done over the past year or so, really bringing that cost down on a lot of their devices while still pushing the boat out and not playing it safe, that's for sure. And they might be about to drop the next version of the Povo series with the 6 Pro due to be released very soon according to rumours. And it might be a true mid-range killer with a budget price. Upgrades to the design, chipset and Android 14 software. I can't wait to see it. Now we still have the best pound for pound phone and the best overall phone of the year. But what are some other upcoming rumoured releases, quickly, that you might want to look out for? Number one, of course, the new iPhone 16 series, which apparently may see not only a design overhaul on the back panel, specifically on the cameras, but also the SE model and SE Plus might be joining the launch in a 5-way phone series. And I think personally that makes perfect sense. Single lenses and 60Hz displays on these, but they will come with a dynamic island. Because of this, we may see the drop of the 16 Plus, with a standard 16, 16 Pro and 16 Pro Max completing the 5-phone array. Battery and chipset upgrades across the board, and no doubt some additional Vision Pro capability features. But please, if you've got a Vision Pro, stop walking around outside. I don't think the world's ready for that. Stay in your house, all right? Doing this, and just talk to the person in front of you. None of that, all right? It's just Pac-Man. Then we also have the new Google Pixel 9 series that again may see a design overhaul to a more squared off and, let's be realistic, iPhone-esque look. That is what the majority of phones are doing recently, and to be fair, I'm all for it. I really did like the 7 Pro look, but the 8 Pro with its slightly more halfway house between being curved and being flat, I wasn't as mad keen, and I think fully squaring it off now would be the way to go. These, if true, look super premium, classy, and they would look really nice in dark metal colorways, copper, slate, gold, titanium, that sort of thing. Please do this, Google. They would look absolutely delightful. We also have the next version of the Honor Magic 5 Pro, the Honor Magic 6 Pro, due to launch at MWC very, very soon, in just a few days now. Super pumped to share more with you on that. Likewise with the Xiaomi 14 series, both launching on the 25th of Feb. You've got the Nothing Phone 2A coming on the 5th of March, and also within the next month, the Tecno Pova 6 Pro is also believed to launch. I have content coming on all of the above. And before the overall best smartphone winner, a quick word from today's video sponsor, Pulseway. Pulseway allows you to effectively clone yourself and be in 2 places at the same time, or realistically, remote access into your systems without actually physically needing to be there. Whether you're looking to update your software, patch systems and troubleshoot programs, or catch critical vulnerabilities, Pulseway is a powerful IT monitoring and management platform that allows you to check in and oversee all of your IT assets from anywhere, anytime, using their easy-to-use mobile and desktop app. You can automate, run scripts, and all with improved security compatibility with all operating systems, with real-time alerts. And one great thing is that you can try all of them without the need to input any card information or sign up to any promises of long-term contracts. So if you're interested, go and check it out completely for free using the links in the video description below. So best all-round smartphone of 2024 so far is... that's the worst drum roll ever. Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra, woohoo! It either matches or tops the charts in pretty much every category, whether that's camera, battery, display, speakers, software, build quality, design. On top of that, you have the DeX compatibility and the S Pen. There really is nothing this phone can't do. Some would argue the iPhone 15 Pro Max should be that guy or girl, or however you want to, yeah. And if we're talking multi-device ecosystem stuff, you may have a case. It does it very well. But if we're talking standalone phone on its own, this is the best phone that is currently available, in my opinion. Aha! Not sure why I just did an Alan Partridge. If money was no object. But if money is object, it's still well over £1,000, whereas at just $899, you've got the OnePlus 12. You get most of what the S24 Ultra gives you for less money, and it might be the best pound-for-pound phone of 2024. Amazing display as mentioned, large battery, fast charging, exceptional haptics, alert slider, solid software, good speakers if not great, good camera if not elite, and for a 2024 flagship at £899, OnePlus doing OnePlus things. Honourable mention, the Oppo Find X7 Ultra, I think is actually slightly more expensive than the OnePlus 12 because you have to import it because it's only available in certain regions. It's not available here in the UK, so unfortunately that can't be on the list. So this video took absolutely donkey's years to make, so if you did enjoy it, a like and a subscribe would be absolutely majestic. Let me know in the comments what your favourite smartphone of the last year is and why. And if you are a brand out there that didn't get a feature in this video, then I do apologise. I am merely one man, and my opinion isn't always right, because I do talk a lot of waffle. Follow my other social medias for short form content on this. My name's Adam. You've been the best as always. I love you, Nevi. I'll see you in the next one. ASBYT. Peace out.